So today's presentation, Green and Sustainable Residential Remodeling Trends, will be presented by Brett Little. Brett is the Executive Director of the Green Home Institute in Michigan. They basically serve the full entire Midwest. He's a green home professional, certifier, trainer, does everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it over to Brett. Brett, the floor is yours. Tell us about green.
All right, Dan, thanks a lot. Thanks to Neri for having us out here. Really appreciate that. Again, my name is Brett Little. I'm the Executive Director here at the Green Home Institute. Today, we've got several resources that we've bundled together of recent trends in green building, green remodeling industry. So we want to cover each of those. Individually, we pulled some data out of them, put them together to go over some different points that we want to highlight. But each of these resources are available for download, so make sure to grab those if you want to learn a little bit more. The first one we're going to cover is very broad. It looks at economic impact of green building in general, not just at residential or remodeling, but a very broad approach to economic impact and improvements of green building. Next, we hone in a little bit with the Smart Market Report, Green and Healthier Homes from Dodge Data Analytics, and I think the National Association of the Home Builders had a little bit of involvement in this. So that's available as well. And then we'll also briefly be referencing the National Association of Realtors Home Buyer and Sellers Generational Trends Report. And we don't have that downloaded, but you can, I believe you have to purchase it from their website there at realtor.org. And then also we reference the AIA Design Trends Survey for home features, and that's actually a quarterly report, and it's an interactive thing that comes out, so you can check that out online as well. And then finally, House has begun to put out reports on what consumers want across renovations and new home construction, so we're going to be referencing the House report. So real quick, big picture, national green construction spending is on the rise, as you can see in 2018, just continuing to grow, projections continuing to grow, where we'll be topping out the 2 billion market just by the end of this year, as far as nationally. As far as construction or employment that goes, again, just continual growth in direct employment in the green building industry, as well as continual growth into the indirect, going all the way up into the millions, billions. And then again, construction labor earnings that have to do with green building industry-wide just continue to grow right up through 2018. I broke this down from that same report, and you can see maintenance and repair. So in some sense, we're talking residential renovations, both multifamily and single family, again, just growing into the 34 million by next year, 40 million, just a massive market in green. Honing down a little bit, looking at the homes report, looking at activity over time for single family remodelers, you can see in 2013 on the left there, just 9% said they did 90% of their projects green. I'm talking the ones who do all of that. All the way up to 2017, we're anticipating 13% of remodelers, and then growth to 25% by 2020. So just an exponential growth of remodelers committing to green building. And then again, same here from that same report, going up to 2020. Seeing builders have a little more of a commitment to green building just because it's a little bit easier to do when you're starting fresh with a fresh slate. There's obviously a lot more challenges in remodeling, but we are seeing growth there too. So what is green building? We look at it through the 5 pillars of green: materials, energy, health, water, and place. Depending on what program you look at, this could be more than 5. They have different names, but we tried to bundle it down to sort of those 5 key pillars, and so we want to cover each of those pillars and what some of the data means. So the first one is energy efficiency, energy conservation, In your case, weatherization, improvements, renewable energy, those are all some buzzwords when it comes to energy. And the thing to know about energy really is it's the gateway drug, and you'll see it's sort of the place where everybody starts, and it's also the most popular. So you can see industry, takes up about 25% of our energy use, transportation another 25%, but buildings is really where we need to make our impact if we want to get our energy loads down. A study came out during the economic downturn that 71,000 homes were in this study, massive study. The ones that had an Energy Star certification label versus the ones that didn't had a 32% less chance of risk of default on their mortgage because they had more money in their pocket that they weren't spending on energy costs. So huge impact on the market. Elevate Energy puts out this really cool smart market report, and they're headquartered in Chicago, but this is one that caught our eye. Chicago homes that disclosed energy costs, not necessarily any better, not any kind of official rating, just were transparent about what they did, had higher close rates and less time on the market, just for being transparent in their energy usage. Here's the House report that just came out, and obviously look and feel and improved functionality are the biggest reason people do remodeling. But look at everything under that. These are all tied to sustainability and energy efficiency. Increased resale value is from energy efficiency. Minimizing your cost, that can be played out at long-term cost payback. Health concerns can be tied to energy efficiency. Smart technology can be tied to energy efficiency. So these are growing trends, according to House. And then looking at the Green and Healthier Homes report, what are the top 10 most important green products and practices? Just look at number 1 here, properly sized installed HVAC system with sealed ducts. Right underneath that, we'll get to that later, but looking at high efficiency HVAC, insulation that exceeds codes, energy efficiency appliances, all of the top 10 pretty much directly have to do with energy efficiency. Now jumping over here, you can see broken down by age, energy efficiency tops them all, with those from 36 and older really liking energy efficiency being key. So it's across ages as well. And then what triggers remodeling activity? What are we seeing out there? And you can see growing down here from 2011 to 2014 in the lighter shade, codes, ordinances, regulations. When you have to pull your permit, you have to have more of an attention to detail to energy efficiency. So that's driving the market for remodeling. And then we are seeing a slight decrease here from 2014, but still rising energy costs can also drive some remodeling decisions. Here's this is a little bit hard to see when we pulled it out, so we kind of blow it up there a little bit. But this is the National Association of Remodeling, National Association of Realtors, and they do a report every year, and there is an environmentally feature being considered very important. Heating and cooling, again, top the list, no surprise there based on what we also saw. And then third in the green, you'll see that's energy efficiency appliances. And so this is for all ages on the left here, but still you can see HVAC basically tops the list, and then efficient appliances sort of come in a close second, based on what people want to see according to the Remodelers Association. AIA here still showing for many popular home features focus on making a home more energy efficient. A little bit down from 2014, but having extra insulation in the attic, or at least that shows us people perceive extra insulation in the attic as a way to improve energy efficiency, which it can be. Again, top of the list here still, even though it's down a little bit from 2014. And then on that same study, LED lighting, clearly down a little bit from 2014, but a huge energy efficiency aspect, a very low-hanging fruit. We've known homeowners to pay for this service to have LEDs installed, so it is a business opportunity. And then even under that, you look at smart thermostats, energy efficiency in general, whatever that means, Energy Star rated appliances, tankless water heaters, which down significantly, but again, all signify energy efficiency being important to the end user. And then again, smart energy management systems, which is now grown in residential homes, being more important. So that's pretty big, and that aligns with better HVAC systems, we think. And so again, it just shows the need for energy efficiency. So let's look at the top 10 energy efficiency needs according to the Green and Healthier Homes study. So again, properly sized HVAC systems is number one. And I wanted to contrast that with the same report, which looked at a growth in renewable technologies. And on the left here, and we'll get to this in a second, you can see solar clearly since 2013 just expanding in renovations and new constructions. Actually, solar is the number one energy source globally, the number one energy source to be added in the country over even big, large-scale projects, even better than natural gas. But contrast this number one, this HVAC system piece here, which is number one and number two in the top 10, and look at this ground source heat exchangers. These are geothermal heating and cooling systems, just exponential growth. So you can see people are really focusing on these HVAC system swap outs and properly sizing as very important to them. And this is very important to builders according to what's being installed and what's growing. So what is heat pump technology? Again, it takes the heating and cooling out of the ground and it brings it into the house. It uses electricity to step it up. It actually can be tied to a superheater or desuperheater and can be used to also produce hot water as well. So your entire heating, cooling, water system. And we're even seeing urban projects that drill straight down, cost coming down on that, and this is going right into existing urban homes as well. It's becoming more and more important. But to contrast that, there is another system coming out there. It's called a air source or air to water source heat pump. Much less invasive to the ground, much less expensive, and the efficiencies are getting really close to geothermal heating and cooling. So these are being used through mini splits, which doesn't involve any messy ductwork. A lot of additions you're probably seeing use mini splits. Sometimes those can be ugly, so you can see these mini splits getting integrated right into existing ductwork, or you can see that they have something like this on the left here is being embedded right into the ceiling or into the side of the house, and you don't even notice it. It just looks like another vent. So we're seeing that becoming more popular as costs come down, especially in cold weather climates where these condenser units are getting rated down to, I've seen up to down to negative 30-degree temperatures for these types of systems. And then heat pump technology is also being embedded into our hot water heater systems. So again, you can get rid of the natural gas system or the really expensive to operate all electric system and use something that will take the natural temperature out of the air and use electricity. And then same with dryer technology. There are cheaper and more efficient to operate heat pump dryers that will again pull the energy right out of the air. Along with that, with HVAC systems, you'll see that's me right there in my Green Star home, changing the filter on my energy recovery ventilator. So you're going to see more energy recovery ventilators and heat recovery ventilators as homes get tighter and tighter. These are going to be integrated right into this existing HVAC system, and what they're going to do is they're going to bring in fresh air, expel the stale air, and then they're going to capture the wasted heat for anywhere from 75 to 90%. And there's all sorts of different system types out there, smaller ones, larger ones, integrated ones, decentralized ones. But I would argue that this is part of that huge consumer push for higher efficient HVAC systems in sustainability. One of the things you can do with these systems too is, depending on how big of a remodel you're doing, is you can eliminate the bath fan exhaust, which is a huge heat loss in the house, and you can use the HRV or ERV to make up for that. The other unique thing you can do is you can eliminate that hood range exhaust in the kitchen, which is a huge hole in the wall leaking lots of energy. And again, you can just have one vent that's taking care of the kitchen and pulling out any of the polluted air from cooking in there. The next term, as I mentioned, solar is growing, and the next term that's becoming very popular is zero energy, net zero energy. We've put together a program called Zero Energy Capable to kind of define it, because it is sort of a Wild West term out there. But you can see on the left, according to the Smart Market Report, in 2013, home builders and remodelers, 8% of them incorporated renewable into all of their projects. 34% offered it as an option. Now you can see it's 45% that's being offered as an option, so you can that it will grow to in 2018. So solar is growing huge, and the term zero energy is becoming on everybody's lips. Everybody wants to go zero for many different reasons, to not being reliant on fluctuating utility costs. If the grid were to go down, smart management systems and batteries are going to protect people. I know our power went out just the other day for about 5 hours, and it was getting to that point where we would have lost all the food in our fridge. And I was thinking, it would be great now to have that solar we're looking at and that battery backup system. But more and more of these situations are going to occur as our infrastructure ages, and so people are going to want, both in multifamily and single family, to integrate zero energy and battery backup. Here's some of our success stories on the top left. In Ann Arbor, Michigan, this is Matt Grokoff. He's one of our Zero Energy Hero Awards. He has a 110-year-old home that he rehabbed and took it down to net positive energy while he's driving a Volt. And every year he generates more energy than he uses, making money from the utility company. And all through some simple weatherization practices, a geothermal system, and putting some solar on his roof that, honestly, if you're driving down the road, it looks like a regular asphalt shingle roof. On the bottom right there is a home in Minneapolis that's being, I believe it's over a 100-year-old home that's going through a gut rehab process. It is targeting to be one of our zero energy capable homes. And then we actually have several other projects in the works that we're seeing that are existing. Because with existing homes, you have a lot of challenges, especially the really old homes. And so there is a lot of thought that needs to go into targeting zero energy. And so, but it is becoming a lot more popular. So next up is health. And so sort of the saying goes, make it tight, ventilate it right. Once you get the energy efficiency down, health is becoming a huge growing trend among people. If you look at some of the data out there and you talk to people and you even just think about yourself, health is very, there's a lot of confusion out there on what leads to healthy homes, and so there's a lot of work that needs to be done. Some of the terms out there are indoor air quality, take it a step further, indoor environmental quality. And so there's all different things that people mean when they look at health. As far as the survey goes, this is one I showed you before from AIA, but if you go all the way over to the right and look at air purification, which is a growing trend of not necessarily just bringing in fresh air, but also purifying the air electrically in the house to destroy any kind of germs, viruses, even VOCs, particulates. It's becoming more and more important. You can just see on the right there is 2005, and we just see a growing trend in that, especially as allergies and asthma are on the rise. Again, down here you can see in the House report, preventing or addressing health concerns. 42% of people surveyed said very or extremely important. So that is becoming, again, according to House, another important thing. One thing that we did notice, and I think many of you noticed working with NARI and probably are getting involved in, is we argue that health is also accessibility, and that people, no matter where they're at in their life, even me, I'm perfectly healthy, can move around, very mobile. But once I had a kid in my old home, in my old 1928-year-old home, I noticed it was very inaccessible to get around. And so no matter where you're at, what challenges you face, whether you have some kind of mobility issue or not, we argue that a huge growing proportion of health is accessibility, and it needs to be built into our remodeling projects as well, and especially into our new home construction projects. And the data says the same thing. So from House, you could almost argue that improved functionality And if you keep reading in this study, you'll see that there are a lot of needs for accessibility, but you could almost argue that improved functionality also has a lot to do with accessibility. Look at this. I showed you this one before. Energy efficiency obviously at the top, but everything underneath it has to do with accessibility, aging in place, some other terms you might see out there, universal design, beyond ADA. If you know anything about ADA, it's only approved for multifamily housing. It doesn't really work in the single family world. And then assistive technology are some other terms out there that are all kind of in line with these growing trends here. We have a session on our website you can check out. We worked with Rosemary Rossetti in Minnesota, or I'm sorry, in Ohio, who's got one of the most accessible homes in the country. You can even tour it through Google like you would tour a street. Other trends that we're seeing: indoor environmental quality testing. So actually, before you start a project and then after a project, testing for mold, pollen, allergens, chemicals, formaldehydes, TVOCs, VOCs, just like energy testing. This is becoming more and more important, where you would test in and test out and get a sample of the air quality issues in a house. You're also going to see people becoming more interested in foam-free design and eliminating foam. Foam is great at keeping air out and energy efficiency, but it has some side effects as far as health, as far as emissions, global warming potential. And so there's a lot of things that are being done to make super tight existing homes and buildings without foam. And then if you're in the multifamily world, compartmentalization is becoming very popular. Sealing up interior units becoming very important. And so you can if you're getting involved in multifamily housing, trying to seal those off and prevent whatever someone else is smoking or cooking from getting into that next unit there. And not spending too much time here, but electromagnetic frequencies. If you're taking a precautionary approach, there is some concern about the wiring in our bedroom, about having refrigerators or halogen lighting too close to our beds, especially for children, and what kind of effect that might play on sleeping patterns or cancer or other illnesses. We just don't know. And so there are very simple things you can do that we have in our Green Star program that you can use if you have clients that have electrical sensitivities or just want to take a precautionary approach. So materials, we look at durability, we look at recyclability, we look at where the materials are from and where they're going. What we're looking at the biggest thing, and if you look at some of the surveys, and if you saw there on that top 10 sustainability concerns, the first one was HVAC in the Smart Market report, but the second one was durability. So not basically what we're looking at is homes that aren't going to rot. So we see lots of homes built with energy efficiency in mind, but unfortunately there are failures that occur from poor water management practices, and so having the tools such as like the Energy Star for homes, water management checklist, it's important to consumers that durability is built into the home and that they're going to have a home that's going to be there for 100, 200, 300 years. Maybe not for the exact consumer, but we know we can build buildings that can keep water out and keep them dry for that long while making them energy efficient.
Brett, it looks like the slides are the same.
They're just all greened out there after that slide?
No, they're all good. Your slides are all good. PDF up and I'll see if it works for us.
Okay. The other thing that comes up high on the list, if you look at some of these reports, is waste management. And so people are interested in their projects. They're during the what we call hopefully deconstruction phase. That products are diverted from the landfill if possible. We know some of the things that you're going to go in and remodel were not designed to go anywhere but the landfill. So that's just unfortunate. But so there are resources out there if you do a little research locally. Oftentimes we find that like take asphalt shingle roofs. We did a little research here locally on a home we were rehabbing, and found that it was actually cheaper to send the asphalt shingle roof to a recycling company to put into the road bedding. And so having that waste management plan is important to consumers. They want to know that you've recycled as much as you can on the job, and hopefully it can save some money. And then if everyone can see the slide, I can't see it, but water is up next. And water ranked pretty low on some of these reports that mentioned it, as far as didn't even mostly come up in any of the other reports. The Smart Market report, it did come up, and again, it ranked pretty low as far as being important to builders and remodelers as far as what to do with it. If you can see the numbers there on your slide, you can see down way at the bottom under efficient use of natural resources, 33% of builders said it was important, and then only 24% of remodelers said it was important. And on the right there, at least they've got the impact right. So more than 60% of green projects being done from people who were surveyed. You can see a huge growth in 60% of people reporting that they use water conservation appliances and water conserving plumbing and fixtures, which is a lot more important. Okay, so some of the things that we're seeing here are a trend back to single flush toilets. This is a great one that can even be retrofitted into existing homes. It's 0.8 gallons per flush, so that's half the mandatory 1.6. And I have glowing reviews from affordable housing developers that this actually works, and works better, and is a lot more durable, and has less breakdowns than the conventional toilets that use more water, believe it or not. I've actually had one of these installed in my existing home for 4 years, and it works great. And just so you know, toilets are the #1 water usage, so you can really make an impact there. As far as leaks, huge opportunity for remodeling, a huge area for water waste. So check that out there. You can easily assess for leaks. And then last, just like you might have an energy efficiency modeling done to a house, which we'll get into, there are more focuses and approaches on water conservation modeling, and developing water modeling tools to reduce the water usage of a home, both inside and outside. One popular one here is from the EPA's Water Sense. So if you're working with a landscape architect, or you do that kind of work, you can use this tool. You don't have to know too much about it to help design a more water efficient landscape. All right, so place is really important. It's a little bit less than what maybe you have the opportunity to impact, especially when you're dealing with an existing structure, because place sometimes has to do with where you want to place the building, or where the building's at. So in some senses, you kind of get what you got, but place really is having a sense of place and redesigning a building. Reusing a building, how can that building redesign and remodel impact the local neighborhood, the local community? What does that mean in the area you're in? So the first thing is, and again, you can't really control this, but having an understanding of. I'm sorry, wrong slide here. So look at this slide here. This is right out of the National Association of Realtors, and actually, no surprise here, but coming from the National Association of Realtors, but commuting costs, right? If you look at, it kind of trends down as people get older. So millennials love commuting costs, want to get those commuting costs down, want to be able to walk and bike. That's what we love. But that's the second highest one there, and so that's kind of having that place. And so if you're working with a client and you're kind of figuring out, hey, where do I want the house to be? That's one thing to consider, is places that are going to have a reduced impact. Again, depending on potentially the type of client you have, but that is a growing concern. During the economic downturn, we had we had, similar to the energy efficiency, you also see patterns of people who were in areas with poor community connections, poor walkability, which I'm going to show on the next slide here. And actually, they had more issues defaulting on their mortgage as well, because a lot of the money went to transportation costs. So here is the Walk Score tool, real simple tool if you're working with a client who's like, I want to go remodel a home somewhere. One thing you can use is this Walk Score tool to tell them, here's how many community resources are, here's how walkable, bikeable, there's even a bus score. Kind of gives them a good idea, of that, and it's something that can be used to get some points in the Green Star rating system as well. Next to that there, I think we're on the, and then same concept here, nature. If you're remodeling in a bigger city, it's important that people can have access to nature. And so that's another growing thing is, are there close by parks that people can access? Very important from a health standpoint. So moving on, what is the value proposition of green building? How do we value this? Why is this important? What kind of growth or trends are we seeing in the value of residential green building? And so here you've got from the Smart Market report, additional amount customers are willing to pay for green remodeling projects. You can see at least 10% of them are willing to pay more than 10%, 42%, 5 to 10%. Willingness of home buyers and homeowners to pay more for a healthier home in general. 83% say they're willing to pay more to make sure that their home is healthier. This next piece here from the same Smart Market report, showing again willingness of customers to pay for green homes, has just exponentially grown. You can see on the bottom there, those who will pay more, 66%, going up to 79%, and I think kind of now leveling off. At some point, it's obviously not going to grow up to 100%. But the one thing to look at is those who won't pay more. You can just see exponentially going down, and those who just don't know, again, going down as the years go on, heading to the top of 2015. So there is a definite growing demand for this. So there's a lot of studies out there, studies out of California, Oregon, Portland, Atlanta. One recently just came out in DC, and they can range anywhere from 2% to 15% we've seen in increased home resale value. So if you're working with a homeowner who's like, got to make some renovations to increase the resale value, green building is becoming a big piece of that. And so this report kind of took all of those together and found that it's probably more like 4.3%. If you're in the Midwest, maybe that is a little lower. If you're in Mid-America, maybe that doesn't exist. If you're in California or Portland, it's probably a little bit higher, but it jumps around depending at where you're in the country, based on these reports that we're seeing. And so some of the things that are helping with that is the greening of the multiple listing service. You can see here in the Midwest, one of the leaders was Traverse City up at the top there in Michigan. Chicagoland was another leader. West Michigan, where I'm at, has gone green in our MLS. All of Minnesota, half of Wisconsin, all of Colorado, all of Florida. It's a growing trend for these localized multiple listing services to add green features into them. So you can see here, this is actually the green disclosure form from the MLS of my house, my Green Star house that I just recently sold. And so this is a disclosure form where you can check off if there's green certifications, check off if there's an energy label, you can check off what all the green features are, and this all gets uploaded so that when a home sells, we can see if it gets more value to it, or a realtor can go, hey, I see that it's green, because realtors, they're just trying to turn homes around, and so they don't necessarily know much about green. NAR does have a green credential for the realtors, but this is one tool they can use to make sure that the house gets uploaded to the MLS, and that will help drive some of the value there. Along with that same concept, what happens with appraisers is they come in and they say, number one, I don't understand this. Number two, I don't see any comparables. So now we're seeing less and less excuses for that as green homes start to trend up. This is a tool developed by the National Association Appraisal Institute, the National Appraisal Institute. It's a residential green energy efficiency addendum. This is national. It's not like the MLS, so there can be some differences on what you ask for. But a lot of the same things are there. If you have a green certification, it can all be attached and uploaded to this. And then this can be pre-filled out for the appraiser to go through the house and make sure that they can at least have a tool to get some more value. And it's all free. And there's even a training and official credential that an appraiser can get. So you can, say, hey, I want this project to have a green appraiser on it, and know that they have that credential. So one of the biggest barriers, though, is financing, funding, breaking down the upfront cost, because it's going to cost you all more. You're going to make more doing this, but it's going to cost more to the homeowner to do these types of things and to drive that cost down. And so there are a lot of resources out there to break that upfront cost barrier down. Some of the resources are very contingent on your city, your municipality, your utility, or your several utilities, your state, and then there are also federal incentives or regional incentives out there that exist as well. But I do challenge everybody to look through those. One of them is tax credits. So the solar PV and solar hot water tax credit just got reapproved through 2019. It's a 30% tax credit. Wind is on there too, but wind is never really works on a small scale. So unless you're doing a project out in a farm or on a seashore. And then underneath that, geothermal systems, you guys got to hurry. Get your projects in now. That ends in 2016. Will it be renewed? Well, that depends on a lot of things these days. But that geothermal system tax credit is going to end here pretty quick. This one's really small, but this is an easy $500 to get for your clients. I've used it, very easy. If you're doing some insulation and HVAC improvements or even renewable energy improvements, this is $500 that they can pick up on their taxes. They can only use it once in their lifetime, so even if they move from homes, it's kind of weird. But $500, you might as well pick it up and knock it off the cost of what they need to do. And then, so the Department of Energy's Home Energy Score we're going to cover here in a second. For those of you who are working with FHA clients, if they can get a Home Energy Score of 6 or higher out of 10, they can stretch a little bit more of their borrowing power. And the home style loans through Fannie Mae can also, through conventional, are releasing a version of this as well. So the concept is your lender says, hey, I know you're doing energy efficiency. I know you're going to save a lot on your utility bill. So we can give you a little more borrowing power so you can pay your remodeler there to do more of these energy efficiency things, because we know that you're going to be able to pay us back. And then if you're using AmeriFirst as your lender, guess what? You can get a $1,000 Power Saver grant towards your closing costs for doing that. Property assessed clean energy, mostly in the commercial realm, but if you're in places like California and a few other places, it is being used for single family. The whole concept of this is it's different state by state and can even be different by municipality, but the whole concept is you borrow money on your property, so you don't actually have a loan, it goes on the property. And you can borrow up to enough to get a 15 to 20 year return on investment. So we're talking massive energy efficiency improvements, geothermal, solar, deep energy retrofits for 20 years. And so that money would go to the client, who would give it to you. They would save energy, and the money they're using to save energy they can use to pay down the cost of the bill. And if they default on their mortgage, what you have then is an improved property that can be sold off at a higher value. PACE, like I said, is growing significantly, and if you want it to happen in your state, it could take some significant advocacy. I'm excited to say here in Michigan, we're doing a really good job with PACE on the commercial side. Not excited that it doesn't have any impact on the small residential side, only $2 million projects. But to solve that, there's another concept, on-bill financing. This is growing across the state. Same concept. New York is doing a lot of work with it. Holland, Michigan is piloting that. We're working with them. The whole idea is that the utility would lend the homeowner somewhere around up to $30,000 to pay you to do the major energy efficiency improvements, and then they pay that off on their utility bill, and basically it nets out to their savings. And then once they pay it off, they have an energy efficient home that's better and has higher resale value. Again, this kind of stuff is spreading across the country, mostly on the small scale single family existing home side, and again might require advocacy effort to get it to move forward. So a lot of these things, we all talk about green building, but we have to be able to put some kind of program together as far as guidance, as far as documentation, as far as verifying this stuff is done, so that this financing and these financing mechanisms and these valuing mechanisms can actually grow across the country. And so we know, every builder, every remodeler now, every architect now, every company now, everybody is green now, right? It's just like the word quality. Everybody does a quality job. Well, now everybody does green. And so, what we want to do with these sort of third-party certification programs is to protect against greenwashing and prevent anything from happening as far as devaluing what green really means. And so having that third party, that independent, and that quality assurance piece built in, so that everybody can know what that actually means. And so with that, I want to start off with a very simple tool. This is the Department of Energy's Home Energy Score. This is a miles per gallon, basically for existing homes. Similar to how a car, when you go to buy a car, any consumer goes to buy a car, it has an MPG label so they know what it's going to cost them. We anticipate that every home in the future is going to have an MPG label, because utility bill transparency is a great first step, but it doesn't really tell the whole story. And so having an MPG label on every single home is going to be very important. The companion to this is the HERS index rating, which is the most popular one, but a very clunky tool for rehabs. But a third of all new homes are being built with the HERS index rating. So again, we see this huge trend towards a energy label and a score. What this score does is it's something that you can provide if you get a little bit of baseline knowledge of what energy is, or you can work with an energy efficiency professional to provide it. You don't need any kind of special equipment or software. But what we're looking at is you go into your home, the project, the renovation project, as you're measuring it out, and then you're going to capture a little bit more data, and you're going to be able to give the home a score. And then it's going to say, based on the recommended improvements, you can get the home up to a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and the homeowner can save this much money a year. What comes out in the score is the estimated annual energy use, all of the details of the home, as far as how much volume there is, attic details, insulation details, HVAC details, all of that very easy stuff to pick up while you're in a home, and gives you a place to sort of measure that all, when you're putting bids together. And then what it also spits out is two different things. It gives a pretty smart recommendation of what the homeowner should repair now from an energy standpoint versus what they should repair later. Those recommendations can also be changed by you so that they fit to what you're trying to sell or trying to offer. And so when you change those recommendations, it can change the score based on the building science. But again, you can either use their recommendations, or you can even add in your own to say, hey, there's a few other things I see missing here, from this tool. And then and we'll get back into how to get training for that. But the next step then is once you've got energy efficiency down, or if you find clients that want to go through the full green, right? We're talking not just energy but health. We're talking materials, water in place. That's when you want to look at the Green Star program. This program was set up for remodels, additions. It can be used for new homes as well, and it can be easily used to generate your bids, your scopes of work, your specifications, as well as your legal documentation accountability forms that you want your subs to sign in the field. So this tool is online, and you can check that out. We'll send a link for that as well. But here's a snapshot out of it. It's an online tool that you can use to go through before a project and figure out what it is that you want to do that's green, what the requirements are to do that are green, and there is no expensive manual that you have to buy. In fact, the program, each of the credits come with all of the details in it, and if the details ever change, it's all changed, right there in the thing. And so you can see what you need to do, what the benefit is, how it needs to be verified, so the project can be certified as well. And then you can also generate a report that shows basically what's being chased after. So these can be embedded into scopes of work, into contracts as well. And then again, they can also be embedded into accountability forms that can be signed off by various contractors or subcontractors, to verify that they've done it, or you can even use that to get their pricing as well. And so the tool, will generate all of that online for you. And then once you've went through and filled out your project online and you're ready and you've gathered your documentation or worked with your Green Star Rater, you can submit your documentation to the Green Star reviewer, and then your project can get certified from there, or they might come back and ask a few more questions on what might be missing. And then from there you get a certificate which you can use to give to the homeowner as a plaque. It can be used for your own marketing efforts, great social media marketing. So when people come and say, hey, are you a green builder, you can use this thing to show it off. And then there's also some neat plaques that we work with a person out of Ann Arbor, Michigan. They actually deconstruct buildings in Detroit, or take cherry scrub ash from Ann Arbor and make these really cool plaques out of that you can put in your office, or that homeowners can mount on their house that they do, and show off their help market their green certified home. So we got a short amount of time here, and we definitely want to get to questions. Had a couple hiccups, but the next step also is the education and going professional. And so this is the evolution of the Certified Green Professional Program, now the Certified Green Home Professional. We have sort of three levels in this: the Associates, the Professional, and the Jedi Master, if you will, once you certify enough projects. To become a Certified Green Home Associates, it's all on demand, all online. What we ask is for folks to go through on the left there, the Building Science Basics, which is sort of it's an online program through a Canadian partner of ours that takes you into a house and shows you how to weatherize the house, and then you kind of take a quiz as you go, and it's all open book, open note, or you can get your BPI Professional Certificate as well. That's the other way you can do that. And then on the right there, we have some mandatory webinars that you need to watch that are all a part of this. And then also, we want you to pick up and read the Green Buildings Practices and Principles book and take some online quizzes to go through that. And this course is discounted for all NARI members as well. Also, this course will be one of the foundational things that you need for you to become a Department of Energy Home Energy Score Assessor, so you can use that DOE energy modeling tool that I told you about. So this is one of the baseline ways that you can do that. If you become one of these professionals, you'll get access to this tool. This tool is completely free to go through the training. It'll give you BPI CEUs if you need it. It'll also give you CEUs for the CGHP program, and it's all done through an open book, open note test, all on your own time. And then there's actually a video game simulator that takes you into a home, and you have to actually do a weatherization of the home or an energy audit of the home, and then just show that you know what you're doing. And then you'll get access to this tool, and you'll be able to start scoring all of your clients' projects to make more informed decisions. So obviously a few hiccups here, but I want to stick around for those of you who do have questions. I do see a few of them piling up here. And maybe Dan, if you want to help moderate some of that, I want to help make sure I answer some of those.
The one that I saw here was, do we really talk about materials other than durability and recycling? Gabby had to step away and wasn't sure what that was covered, and she was really, interested about sustainable as in renewable. So, with renewable resources. And I talked to her, says, good idea, but will clients pay for that? And then she talked about the conflict between durability and renewability. Can you talk to that a little bit? That material?
It's very interesting, the conflict between durability and renewability. There are, if you go to China, if you go to India, there are structures built entirely out of natural resources. Over, I don't think 2,000 years quite, but almost 2,000-year-old structures, not the pyramids, and they haven't rotted at all. So I think it's just a matter of us kind of going back and finding that knowledge that we've lost. Yes, there is a trade-off. Sometimes there are a lot of products that have been pushed on the market with a lot of recycled content, and they have just completely failed, and that's unfortunate because it's really given a bad name. But there are ways to use natural materials, natural wall systems. We see additions being built with straw bale and straw clay, and if it's done right to keep water out, use something that's never going to rot, never going to mold, and can last for thousands of years. Assuming that it can, you keep the water and maintain the water in that system. Now that's talking about wall structures. Look at materials like cellulose, insulation. Perfect example. Usually cellulose is a locally sourced material, so you're keeping money in the local economy depending on where you are. Here in West Michigan, we have a huge local distributor of it. All the recycled paper goes into cellulose, and cellulose has better insulating and air sealing properties than fiberglass. Not as good as foam, but again, it's hyper-local, all recycled content, and again, if it's installed right and sealed right and water doesn't get to it, you can prevent failures. But yeah, it is a challenge. It is a trade-off sometimes, depending on what you're looking at for recycled content. And if you look at the data there on most of these reports, materials that have been recycled, not so important. But I think overall it's a growing importance of industrial manufacturers to tout the recycled content or recyclability, or even products that are compostable.
Great. Just a point on there's a box called Web Links 2. There's a survey there. I didn't talk about it at the start, but there's a survey that you can click on that to the survey, so you can kind of evaluate the program. There's also a link to the Green Home Institute's homepage and the Green Star checklist. Now, if you have to go, you can always come back to this page. I'll leave this live for about a week or so. And if you watch the recording, those links will also be live in the recording, so they'll be archived there for you as well. So those people that are on the recording now know that those links are good, and you could check those at any time through the process and actually link out to those websites. If there's no other questions, see a couple people are typing. All right, I think we're good. Brett, very good job. I'm going to stop the recording.